My name is Q, and today is March 27th, 2020, and I wanted to kind of start like a video diary. I'm kind of like on some Anne Frank shit because it's Armageddon, and so many things are happening in New York City that I kind of want to keep like a record, kind of like a time capsule for myself, but also to share with my loved ones, friends, and family in other states. And my friends and people here, because social distancing, so I ain't seen y'all either, just so that we can all be aware of what's really happening, because the things that I'm seeing on the internet and news sites and video clips from news outlets and things like that, are not accurate for what's really happening on the ground. And so I want people to really know what's happening. So that's why I'm doing this. And I have some notes, okay? Also, I may be starting a YouTube channel with this. I don't know. I may be segueing it, but who knows what's going to be happening? Segueing it. Sorry. Who knows what's going to be happening? So subscribe, I guess. I don't know if you care to subscribe and see, because I'm going to be doing these as many as possible as I can when I remember. So maybe subscribe, I guess. I'm not going to be having no intro, no music, nothing, okay? I don't know if I'm even going to be doing any editing because I don't know how to do any of that and it's difficult. So if anybody wants to do it for me, please. So Governor Cuomo declared a state of emergency in New York State on March 7th, 2020. On that day, there were 12 people in New York City diagnosed with COVID-19. On March 13th, 2020, Mayor de Blasio declared a state of emergency for the city of New York City. And during that day, there were 95 cases of COVID-19 in New York City. My last day of being in the office was last week Friday. So today's the 27th, so the 20th was my last day in the office. But I'm an essential employee, so we had to go in, and we're on a rotated schedule, etc. So today's death toll, let me go with the infection rate first. So the infection rate in New York City as of this morning, when I looked up this information, was 23,112. Now that's just in New York City, that's the number. In New York State, there are 37,258 people with COVID-19 in the whole state. Now, out of those who tested positive for COVID, 55% are under the age of 50, which is a lot. Now, the death toll in New York City as of this morning was 365 people. In the state of New York, it's 519 is the death toll. Now, out of those numbers of the deaths of COVID-19 in New York State, 97% of the people who died had pre-existing conditions. And 50% of the deceased are older than 75 years old. Now, here's some interesting quotes from the mayor, de Blasio, about New York City and COVID. He says, the mayor expects coronavirus to be worse in April than it has been in March. New Yorkers should be prepared for this pause that we're on to last through May. On Good Morning America, when de Blasio was on there, he said that he believes that more than half of the city will be infected with COVID-19 at some point. Letting that sink in. Now, why are these numbers so high in New York City, right? People keep asking this. The reason why the numbers are so high in New York City is because we have a high testing capacity. Right now, they're able to run through about 6,000 tests a day. Or administer. They're able to administer about 6,000 tests a day, which is the largest number, I think, in the United States, which recently surpassed China with the number of diagnosable cases. And this shit just got here, allegedly. Allegedly, COVID-19 just got here, but we have more cases than China. And China had it months ago. You do the math. Whose numbers are wrong? China's, ours? Who lying? Somebody lying. So that's what's going on. I think that that's why the numbers are so high in New York City. Also because we're all over each other in New York City. There's no space here. It's no joke. You all guys have all seen those tiny apartment videos. There's just no space here. We're on top of each other in the trains, packed on the streets, literally everywhere. There's no space. So everybody's sick, okay? Some of the populations with high concentrations of numbers are NYPD, which makes sense. MTA, which is like our public transportation system. There are 52, allegedly 52, MTA employees who have coronavirus. 2 of them have died so far as of this morning. Also FDNY, which is the fire department. And the numbers are so high there, I believe, because that's who our ambulance, EMS, are part of FDNY. Now, FDNY is refusing to say whether that 170, and they're refusing to say a percentage of which of are firefighters and which are ambulance workers, but common sense. Quite a few ambulance workers and medical staff have been sick in New York City. So EMS, a lot of doctors and medical staff and nurses, and probably some child protection agency and the Bronx Juvenile Detention Facility that they have, the secure one. Some employees have it there as well, which all makes sense because these are very public jobs. And so it makes sense that quite a few. In terms of quarantine, they're not calling it the stay-at-home order. They're not calling it that in New York City because Cuomo's afraid that if he calls it that New York City residents, in New York State, but specifically New York City residents, will be more prone to breaking the rules because he said that we're really good at that. So the stay-at-home order that's not that they're not calling a stay-at-home order was talked about on Friday, March 20th, and then it went into place on Sunday, March 22nd. Which coincided, March 22nd was a Sunday, and on Monday the 23rd was the week that I started being quarantined in the house. So my last time being outside more than walking my dog and more than like hopping in the car for grocery supplies was Friday, March 20th. So I'm just taking note of that just in case I get any sort of symptoms or anything. Here are the quarantine rules, okay? So 100% of the non-essential workforce cannot go to work. And if they find that, if they somehow catch a person going to work who is a non-essential workforce person, then the company that they work for will be fined instead of the individual person. And I'm not sure who's going to be stopping people to check that, if it's going to be the police. But I'm an essential worker, and as an essential employee, I got like a letter from my agency saying, like a freedom paper, girl, like freedom papers during slavery, okay? I got like this letter that says that I'm allowed outside to go to work because I'm an essential worker and shit like that. So that's one of the rules. Any sorts of social gatherings, regardless of the reason why, including like church services and shit, have been disallowed. So people are like allowed out of their homes and into the public, and we can go to the parks, but everybody must be 6 feet apart, mandatory 6 feet, and they have not shut down the trains, thank God, which is like a New York City staple, but we're being instructed, or the governor and the mayor want us to only use the train if necessary. So I'm not expecting how they're wanting other people to get around. Oh, the buses are free, which is, I'm shook. People can't even go in the front door of the bus unless you have like a physical disability or some such thing, like an accessibility concern, then you can use the front for the ramp. But they're instructing people to just enter the bus on the back so that the drivers can be safe with some distancing, which shook. That they're letting people, they were jailing people in New York City for hopping the turnstile for $1.75 fare, but now we can get on the bus, which is also $1.75 for free. Okay, COVID got the world shook. Rona, that Rona got the world shook, girl. But we don't have a curfew. Back to quarantine rules, no curfew, which is amazing. And so far, I really don't feel like a lot of New York City people are taking the quarantine rules seriously and the full effect of the coronavirus. I'm not really sure because I've been holed up in my home, but when I go outside to like walk my dog and things, I can still kind of see people like being in each other's faces and spaces and things. So I don't really know. I feel like the people who are complying are mostly only complying because it's cold. Sorry, that's my dog. Oh my God. I feel like they're only complying because it's cold here. But once it warms up in New York City, I'm really concerned about people being outside because people love when it gets warm here. So I don't know. I'm worried about that. What else? is important for me to say right now. On Good Morning America, when de Blasio was on there, this is a quote. He says that he believes that more than half of the city will be infected at some point by the coronavirus. Okay. Now, what else is going on? Some interesting tidbits about what's going on in New York City. 200 inmates have been released from New York City jails, with another 175 to soon be freed. New York City jails, New York City, NYPD loves to jail niggas in New York City. So that the fact that they're even considering letting people out, let alone follow through on the plan. I remember when I heard this shit last week, I was shook. But that they did it so quickly, I'm shook. They weren't even letting people out of jail during Katrina, when the shit was flooding. The water was rising in the jails during Katrina, and they were not letting those people out. Granted, that was the South, but still. Now, the people who are being considered to be released are, old people with pre-existing conditions and things like that. So, yeah, but still, that they letting them people out, I'm shook. What else is interesting? About 2,500 ventilators, 2,500 more ventilators are on the way to our city, but de Blasio says that we need 15,000. So that's about 1/6 of the way. Those 2,500 ventilators are coming from, 500 of them are coming from the White House, 2,000 of them are coming from FEMA. And Elon Musk, who's the Tesla guy, also the big racist, said that he's also going to give a few hundred to New York City. De Blasio says that we have 20,000 hospital beds in New York City. Now, a word on that. Many of the hospitals are almost full, pretty full. That's unclear because the New York City hospitals, the public hospitals and private hospitals, are refusing to release statistics on the numbers that they're having in their hospitals. But there have been a few nurses and things and heads of nursing organizations and things who have come out and said that certain hospitals, like Elmhurst Hospital, where there were just many deaths, I think 13 deaths in a 24-hour period from COVID, are at 100% capacity. Kings County, 90%. I've seen some numbers online, but I'm not sure how reliable that is, so don't quote me. But it's a lot. Otherwise, they wouldn't be having it. What else is interesting? So there's 20,000 hospital beds in New York City. And the goal, according to de Blasio, is to triple that number by May. And they're doing that currently in the city by trying to convert abandoned hospitals or closed down hospitals. They're trying to reopen those back up. They're looking at in New York City, we have a lot of public space conference areas, conference centers and things like that. So they're considering using some of those sorts of spaces, like the Javits Center, spaces that are known to use for conference space. So they're going to be using those sorts of things. Right now, hospitals have been told to somehow double their capacity for clients, for patients. So they have been doing things like putting beds in parking lots and in courtyards, which is brazy. Okay, that's what's going on in the New York City hospital system. In terms of supplies, so with the 20,000 hospital beds, the goal is to triple that by May. And that's where de Blasio says he needs the federal government's help to do that. So the National Guard to come staff. Some of the other things that are slotted for hospital space is this Navy ship called Comfort.